Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Like sign? All right, resolution 2025-35 is approved. Item D.
City Council Resolution number 2025-36. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Live Oak, Florida, accepting a proposal from H2O Innovation Operations and Maintenance, LLC, contingent on negotiations for a contract related to public works, labor force management services, and providing for an effective date. And just to explain, the word contingent is they were the only entity that submitted a bid, and so this would accept that bid contingent upon further negotiations to finalize the terms of the actual contract, with things such as how many people, the duties, responsibilities, and we've been working on that, drafting and negotiating already. So hopefully we'll be able to get to that into the tunnel pretty quick.
We discussed that all the way up till about 5:05 this afternoon, so we're working on it.
All right, you've heard the resolution read into record. It will be the pleasure of the council.
Offer motion that we approve resolution, what is that, 2025-35? 36, I'm sorry.
I'll second. All right, motion and second. Discussion?
Yes, with this, just want to make sure, how this is done. Will we be able to, before it is finalized, will this council be able to look at the contract and
Right now, there's a couple of things in there that, we want to go back with H2O and ask them a couple of questions. We had a couple of typos in there that we sent back that needed to be fixed. We found another one today. So we're going back and forth with the negotiation. JL and I know pretty well what we expect, and I think H2O understands what we expect. So I don't think it's going to be a long process of back and forth right now. We've gone through most of it. But I want y'all to approve it.
that's what I want to make sure that we are going to see it before it's approved, and then instead of getting it after it has been approved.
Generally what happens is if we have a contract approved at the time it's presented to the council, then we'll have a joint resolution that says authorizing the acceptance of the bid and acceptance of the contract that's been negotiated. That's usually attached to that resolution that authorizes the mayor to execute it on behalf of the city, and whatever entity was awarded that particular contract or bid, they would sign it. And so here we're just doing step one. Step two will be a subsequent resolution that will be before you that will have attached as Exhibit A the contract. And that resolution essentially will be to accept the terms and conditions of the contract attached as Exhibit A. And that will be an agenda item, and that would be the time that the specific terms of the contract, which is pretty lengthy, could be discussed by the council. So this is just part one and part two.
And if the council sees something in there that they question, will we at that point in time be able to make changes, and then you guys send it back, or?
You would have to vote. If somebody voted to approve the contract as a whole and there was a second and a majority vote, the contract as a whole would be approved. Someone could make a motion to have a certain line item addressed, and that would be the same process as our motion. It would be a motion, a second, a discussion, and if it passed, then we would negotiate that particular line item. If it failed, it would remain in the contract.
Mr. President, may I, City Manager, what error or what item that you found in this?
There was just one item this afternoon, because we've really worked hard at cleaning it up. This afternoon, there was one thing about water distribution, right? It was in the wrong spot. So we wanted to make sure that that particular paragraph of water distribution was put in the right place in the contract, just so it all flows and follows properly. So it's more of a placement of information than actual change or anything. We're looking at it really close. That's when we look to find it.
You anticipate, are you going back to the bargaining table tomorrow, or you guys start when is that? You anticipate?
JL and I will have a discussion after tonight, and then we will get with H2O with our changes if we have any, and then it'll be up to them to come back to us, but then by the next meeting, we should have it all hammered out. I don't think we're very far apart.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, like sign. All right, resolution 2025-36 is approved. Item E.
All right, so discussion and possible council action for the appointment of seat 3 of the Planning and Zoning Board for the remaining portion of the 3-year term starting August of 2025, ending in August of 2028, based on applications received.
George Curtis, City of Live Oak. We did receive one application from Mr. Kenneth Beasley, who qualifies as a resident of the city. And so, based on his interest, his continued interest, he did apply previously. The last time we had an open seat, we've had discussions with him, and we certainly would look forward to him serving on our board and bringing him up to speed on all the criteria to make him successful. So that's our recommendation.
All right, you've heard staff's recommendation. It'll be the pleasure of the council.
I make a motion that we accept Kenny Beasley as the, for that position.
Planning and zoning board member.
Right.
So, yeah,
Seat
zoning
3,
board,
yes.
seat 3.
All right, so any discussion?
Mr. Curtis, who occupied that seat previous?
I believe it was Jimmy McCullers.
Oh, okay.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? All right, so Mr. Beasley will be appointed to seat 3 of the Planning and Zoning Board for the remaining portion of the 3-year term starting in, it started already, August 2025. Good. All right, now we're going to move to the public hearing portion.
Well, there's 2 levels of public hearings we got tonight.
Okay.
The first one relates to the next line item, which is ordinance number 1537, an ordinance of the City of Live Oak, Florida, amending ordinance number 1518 relating to public right-of-ways, providing for recitals, conflict, and effective date. Does not require the quasi-judicial process that we're going to go into. With my dissertation, I'll give on the next one, but we do need to open the public hearing as to the second reading of ordinance number 1537 for any comment by the public.
All right, so at this time, we will open up the floor to the public. If anybody has anything directly related to the final reading of ordinance 1537. All right, seeing and hearing none, we will close the public hearing portion. This is appropriate to ask what would be the pleasure of the council at this time.
I make a motion that we accept the final reading of ordinance 1537.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yes, refresh my memory on this right away.
Somebody?
Mr. Curtis. George Curtis, Development Manager, City of Live Oak. This is a street right-of-way that was previously vacated by the council. However, it retained a utility easement in the width of 40 feet. This ordinance reduces the 40-foot utility easement down to 20 feet to allow housing to be built on lots where it wouldn't impede the setbacks for additional housing.
And where's the location at?
It's right here on Railroad Avenue, just south of the Florida Power and Light substation, or main station.
Okay. Okay, that's all I needed.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? All right, the final reading of ordinance 1537 is completed and approved. Now, yield back to Mr. Ken.
Yes, ordinance number 1538, An ordinance for the city of Live Oak, Florida, amending the zoning district to 7 acres more or less of land on the official zoning atlas of the city of Live Oak, land development regulations pursuant to an application LDR 2503 by the property owners and/or their authorized representative under the amendment procedures established in Article 3 of the land development regulations, providing for a change in the assigned zoning district from commercial neighborhood CN and residential office RO to office institutional OI on certain lands within the corporate limits of the city of Live Oak, Florida, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, authority, and an effective date. And for the purpose of the audience and the council, be a reminder that this is, because it deals with zoning and land development regulations, this is a quasi-judicial procedure. We have read the title of the ordinance. We will open up the floor for those who wish to speak to give it 3 minutes. This is obviously, being a quasi-judicial procedure, the city council's decision must be based on the evidence and information that is presented at this hearing. It'll be presented by Mr. Curtis on behalf of the city and their planning department, and then anyone else wishing to speak for or against. In such a proceeding, the city council is not allowed to take into consideration public sentiment or the popularity of a particular development proposal or request. The council can only consider the competent substantial evidence that is presented to the council during this hearing. The property owner, the applicant, has the burden to prove that its application is consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development regulations. If they meet that burden, the Supreme Court of Florida has explained the burden shifts to the governmental board, which is y'all, to demonstrate that maintaining the existing zoning or other classification accomplishes a legitimate public purpose. Citizens are allowed to speak. They are allowed to give factual matters. Those, if they give opinions, those should not be considered by the board, as they would not be factual in nature and would not constitute competent evidence. Competent evidence is evidence a reasonable mind could accept as adequate to support a conclusion. For instance, if a citizen said it's going to increase traffic, that would not be considered competent substantial evidence. However, if an engineer presented a traffic study showing the volume on that particular location, that would be factual evidence that the council would consider. The last thing is, and we've gone over this before, our ex parte communications. Council members are allowed to speak to the public. The public's going to come up to you and give their opinion on certain matters that are appearing before you. You can read written communications from any person, and you can conduct investigations, site visits, etc. Regarding the pending matter before the council. So at this time, I would ask individually, has any council member had any ex parte communications regarding the ordinance at issue?
Need a roll call?
Yes.
Alford, no.
Owens, no.
Brown Robinson, no.
Jefferson, no.
Campbell, no.
All right. Therefore, we'll now proceed with city staff to make a presentation.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be true, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Sir?
George Ferris, Development Manager. This is a rezoning request on 7 acres on Walker Avenue. Address is 1220 Walker Avenue Southwest. Current location of the Orchard Church. They own the property. They operate their ministry there. In the past, this property was originally designated for residential uses, and then the dance shop came along and built a facility there as a dance studio. And that was allowed in the residential office zoning that was there. But then they wanted to do like a sales, retail, boutique type establishment there along with the dance. So the zoning was changed to commercial neighborhood because of that retail sales that they sought to do there. But it only changed the 1 acre corner of the property. If you look in your packet, there's a map showing the commercial neighborhood corner versus the rest of the property that's residential office. And neither of those existing zonings are consistent with allowing a institutional type use, such as a church ministry, to expand and develop other parts of the property. So we've had meetings with the applicant. The applicant has an authorized representative, Pittman Engineering, who's here, that's assisting the applicant with the request. And I'll go ahead and submit to you as exhibits on behalf of the city, the maps, photographs, the staff report, and the ordinance, which is before you for first reading, and as exhibit 2, the applicant's letter of intent and their submittal for competent evidence that was submitted, and as well as the full case file that we retained as part of their application process. This was advertised in the newspaper. Property signage was posted on the property. It also came before the Planning and Zoning Board on Monday, August 18th for consideration, where they unanimously passed a resolution recommending to the City Council approval of the request. We did evaluate the request in relation to the comprehensive plan, and it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It is also consistent with the comprehensive plan future land use map, because the land use that is already there supports the requested zoning. So staff's recommendation is approval of the request for a first reading on this ordinance for the zoning change.
For the record, the items mentioned will become part of the evidence and part of the record for this quasi-judicial hearing. So the next step would be then for the applicant to make a presentation if they wish to.
I can answer questions. Good evening. Brian Pittman, Engineering. I'm sorry about that.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do. Good evening. Brian Pittman with Pittman Engineering. I don't really have anything to add. The best way I summed it up to the applicant, my client, was that basically we're attempting to bring this kind of into a more appropriate use. From what I understand is their zoning for the use. There are very big planners that are looking that in the event in the future when they do want to expand, this should allow them to do so much easier, and also seems to be a more consistent zoning for the use they currently are using it for. So that's really the main reason behind the request tonight.
I do want to go on record too, Mr. Ken, I'd be remiss if I did attend that church, so I don't know if that disqualifies
As long
me.
as you do not have a financial gain by the zoning
No,
change, you do not ratify.
Me too, though, he's preaching.
Not even close.
Question, we're talking about commercial and neighborhood.
No, sir. So I believe the reason why that was created, while there were two separate, I believe it used to be two separate parcels. They obtained the second, which is why you see those. Is that correct? That's why you had the multiple zonings there. They've recently adjoined those two parcels, so what were two have now become one. So that's why when you look at the current zoning district, you had commercial neighborhood and residential office. They've now combined the parcel. It kind of has split zoning on that parcel. This will bring the entire parcel into that office institutional zoning, which is, again, we feel more appropriate for the use they're currently using for.
All right, so I don't know, it might be a George question. So if a business pops up, will there be some kind of separation for the privacy fence between residential and commercial if needed, or that should be part of the site plan?
George Curtis. The office institutional zoning that is being sought is not considered a commercial district. So the type of business activity that could come would be limited to institutional uses. Those are, besides something tied to the church, could be a daycare center, could be an assisted living facility, could be a hospital, or other similar type institutional. It could be even a charter school, kindergarten through 12th grade charter schools, a private institution. And the land development regulations does trigger buffering requirements based on various criteria, but I don't have the code in front of me to, and the set of plans that would dictate that assessment. But all that gets worked out according to the laws that are already adopted for development.
So would the planning and zoning have a say if so on the type of buffering? If it,
They only have a say if the nature of the development triggers a public hearing before them, which would be, as it currently reads, a building of 20,000 or more square feet proposed, or the modification and alteration of 2 or more acres of property. And then they would have the ability to review the site plan and make a determination if there was any additional conditions to require. But all our zoning districts across the board do require buffering in one way or another, depending upon the nature and the history of the property compared to adjacent uses.
At this time then, are there any members of the public that wish to speak? Hearing none, applicant, I assume, has no further closing arguments? Yes, sir. Staff has no further closing arguments? Yes, sir. All right, so at this time then, the public hearing can be closed, and it will be then the pleasure of the council.
I make a motion that we approve the first reading of ordinance 1538.
second?
All right, do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. First reading of ordinance 1538 has been approved. Is there any unfinished business with the city manager? Council? I believe if I looked at my calendar correctly, the next scheduled meeting will be October 14th, is that correct?
Then we have a special meeting between the
Yeah.
23rd.
23rd.
Yeah,
Final budget hearing,
September 23rd.
That's what I get for missing this.
At 5:30?
5:30.
I believe that'll be the final budget hearing and a special meeting to consider some additional resolutions about it.
Additional items on that agenda.
All right. So, if no further business, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank y'all for coming.